In a quiet part of the galaxy, the stars shone peacefully. Nothing moved for light years, but then something new appeared, something unexpected. A small human spaceship drifted near the edge of the Scifi's dominion. It was old and looked damaged, like it had been floating for a long time. The ship was called Echo 7. It did not respond to calls or signals. To the Scifi's, this ship looked like an easy target. Commander Valkor, a tall, thin alien with sharp eyes and silver skin, stood on the bridge of the warship Velkthar. He stared at the human ship on the screen. "Primitive Earth vessel," he said with a smirk. "No shields, no weapons, no challenge." "Shall we destroy it, Commander?" asked his second-in-command. Valkor shook his head. "No. We'll board it. Let's see what secrets the humans are hiding." A team of 6 elite Scifi soldiers prepared to board. They wore black armor and carried high-tech weapons. They were trained to deal with violent threats, but they didn't expect any danger from an old human scout ship. The docking clamps connected. The airlock opened with a hiss. Inside the dimly lit ship, the hallway was quiet. Dust floated in. The air. No lights, no sounds. The team moved carefully, scanning every corner. At the center of the ship, they found something surprising. A single human. She stood calmly with her hands behind her back. Her uniform was torn and her face had a thin scar across the cheek, but her eyes, sharp and steady, showed no fear. "Identify." "Yourself," barked the Scifi's leader. The human answered in a flat voice. "Lieutenant Kara Miles, Earth Interstellar Defense Force. Serial number—" "We don't care about your numbers," the alien interrupted. "You're our prisoner now." Kara stayed silent. The leader stepped forward. "Bind her. Take her to the ship. We will learn what she knows." One of the soldiers moved toward her, cuffs in hand. That was their mistake. Kara's eyes flicked toward the soldier's hand. She moved so fast it was hard to follow. A sharp elbow to the throat, a spin, and a kick sent the soldier crashing into the wall. The rest of the team reacted, but too slowly. Kara grabbed one of their weapons and fired a stun pulse into 2 others. She ducked a laser beam and rolled across the floor, knocking another off his feet. Within moments, 5 of the 6 elite soldiers were down, groaning, unconscious, or out of the fight. The last one backed away, fear growing in his eyes. Kara stood tall, holding the alien weapon, like she had trained with it for years. "Tell your commander," she said calmly. "Next time, send more." The last soldier ran. Back on the Velkthar, Commander Vial watched the feed with disbelief. "What just happened?" The screen flickered. Kara appeared on their system, her face calm. "You came looking for an easy win," she said. "You found a human instead." Then the screen went black. For a long time, no one spoke. The bridge was silent. Finally, Vial clenched his fist. "Prepare the hunter unit. I want that human captured, alive." Meanwhile, inside the Echo 7, Kara patched up a small cut on her arm. Her hands were steady. She had been through worse, much worse. She wasn't just a scout pilot. Kara Miles was trained in survival, close combat, hacking, and infiltration. When her ship's experimental jump drive had malfunctioned weeks ago, she had been thrown across light years, deep into unknown space. Her crew was gone, the ship damaged, and she had been alone. But she wasn't broken. She had spent weeks studying the Scifi's networks, watching how they moved, how they thought. Now they had found her, but she was ready. She began typing into her system. Let's give them a proper welcome next time. Outside, the stars remained still, but something had changed. For the first time in many years, the Scifi's dominion had met someone who did not run, did not beg, and did not break. They had met a human, and they would live to regret it. The stars were quiet again, but the Scifi's dominion was not. Inside the great warship Velkthar, Commander Valkor stood in front of a large screen, his face cold and angry. The video of Kara Miles, one human defeating 6 elite soldiers, played again and again. Each time, it made him more upset. "She made us look weak," he said. His officers stood silently. No one dared to speak. Commander Vielle turned to his second-in-command. "Send a hunter-killer unit. I want her taken, alive or unconscious. No more mistakes." "Yes, Commander." The Sirathex hunter unit was known as Unit Zeros. They were not like regular soldiers. Each member was specially trained, fast, strong, silent. They had hunted dangerous creatures across many planets, but none of them had fought a human before. The team leader was Sergeant Traxel, a large alien with metal armor built into his body. "This is just one human," he said to his team. "She's clever, yes, but she is alone. We will end this quickly." They tracked Kara's ship to an old moon station. The place was dead. It had been a mining outpost long ago, but now it was just empty halls and cold metal. Perfect for a trap. The Echo 7 sat quietly in a hangar. The lights were off, no movement. Unit Zeros moved in. Inside the station, Kara watched them through hacked security cameras. She sat quietly in a dark room, her eyes focused. She had set traps across the station. She knew the Sarathex would come stronger this time. "Let's see how you handle old-school tactics," she whispered. As the hunters moved deeper into the station, things began to go wrong. One stepped on a pressure plate. A gas bomb exploded, filling the hallway with thick blue smoke. Another tried to cut through a locked door, but the panel shocked him with a strong electric burst. They kept moving, but their confidence started to shake. "She's watching us," one said. Traxel growled. "Keep going. She cannot hide forever." Kara moved through vents and shadows. She had taken parts from her ship and the station's old systems to create tools, traps, and distractions. She had no backup, no friends. But she had her mind and her training. She lured 2 hunters into a control room. As they entered, the door slammed shut behind them. The lights turned red. The room's gravity flipped for 5 seconds, just long enough to throw them against the ceiling. When gravity returned, they dropped like rocks. Elsewhere, one of the hunters followed a heat signature into a storage room. It looked like Kara was hiding behind some crates. He fired. But it was just a heat pack wrapped in fabric. Then, something hit him from behind. Kara dropped down, knocked away his weapon, and stunned him with a quick jab to the neck. 3 down. Traxel heard the reports. One by one, his team was falling. He clenched his fists. "She's playing with us," he said. "No more games." He activated thermal vision and moved straight to the station's core. Kara was already waiting. "You're smarter than the rest," she said from behind a machine. "You've lost," Traxel growled. "There's nowhere left to run." "I'm not running," she said. "I'm learning." With that, she pressed a button on her wrist. The lights went out. The walls flashed with red emergency lights. A siren began to wail, and then the floor beneath Traxel dropped. He crashed into a maintenance tunnel just as Kara had planned. She jumped down after him. What followed was a close, fast fight. Traxel was strong and tall. His armor protected him well, but Kara was quick, precise. She didn't waste movements. She ducked his heavy punches, kicked his legs, struck where the armor was weakest. Traxel tried to grab her, but she slipped away again and again. Finally, she used an old mining cable to trip him. As he fell, she jumped onto his chest and aimed a stolen stun gun at his face. "It's over," she said, breathing hard. He stared up at her, shocked. You're not just a soldier." "No," Kara said. "I'm human." Then she stunned him. Hours later, back on the Velkthar, Commander Vielle stared at the screen again. The feed from the hunter unit had stopped. All signals lost. His face turned pale. "This cannot be," he whispered. His communication officer said, "Commander, we are receiving a new message. It's from the human." "Put it on screen." Kara appeared again. Her uniform was still torn, but she looked calm. "To the Scifi Dominion. You sent your best. They failed. You think humans are weak. You think we give up. You are wrong. We learn. We adapt. We survive. If you still want to fight, I'll be waiting." Then the message ended. That night, across the Scifi network, whispers began to spread. One human destroyed a whole hunter unit. She fights like a ghost. She doesn't run. She doesn't lose. The name Kara Miles became known on many ships, not just among Scifi, but among other alien species too. Some were afraid. Some were impressed. A few began to wonder, if one human can do this, what if more are out there? The Scifi Dominion was not used to fear. For hundreds of years they had ruled their space without challenge. Most species obeyed them. A few resisted, but not for long. Now, everything had changed. One human, just one, had defeated a full hunter unit, escaped capture twice, and sent messages that reached far beyond one ship. The name Kara Miles was now whispered across space stations and military bases. Commander Vale Kor could no longer ignore her. "She is not just a soldier," he said during a high-level meeting. "She is something else. We must understand how." The science division was called in, and with them came Dr. Altari, a xenopsychologist, an expert in alien minds and behaviors. Her job was to study other species, find their weaknesses, and learn how they think. She was calm, quiet, and curious. "I will study this human," she said, "not with weapons, with knowledge." Dr. Altari spent days watching every video they had of Kara Miles, the boarding fight, the moon station traps, the final battle with Sergeant Traxell. She took notes. She paused frames. She listened to Kara's voice again and again. "She doesn't act like the others," Altari said to herself. "She fights like a machine, but thinks like a puzzle master." She opened the old Scifi files on humans. According to their records, humans were still new to space. Their weapons were outdated, their ships were slow, and they were known to be emotional, reckless, and not very advanced. But Kara didn't fit this picture. "She's not emotional," Altari said. "She's focused, calm, always learning." And then she noticed something else. In every situation, Kara did something that many species did not. She adapted. Meanwhile, Kara Miles had moved her damaged ship to a quiet asteroid belt. She used old mining equipment and stolen Scifi tech to build a hidden base. It wasn't perfect, but it gave her time to plan, study, and recover. She knew more hunters would come, and stronger ones, so she used the time to get ready. She studied the Scifi language. She decoded parts of their communication system. She even began to map out the nearby Scifi patrol routes. She trained every day. Combat drills, simulations, weapon repairs. Most importantly, she thought, she remembered the words of her old commander from Earth. "A human who survives long enough becomes more than a soldier. They become a problem." Back on the warship Velkthar, Dr. Altari called a meeting with Commander Vael. "I have studied her," she said. "And?" the commander asked. "She is not fighting for glory, not even revenge. She is surviving. But her survival is not random. It is intelligent. She learns faster than we expected. She uses your own tools against you." "She is alone," Vael said. "She cannot win a war." "No," Altari agreed. "But she can change one." Vael looked confused. "How?" Dr. Altari touched her tablet and brought up a map of the Dominion. "News of Kara Miles is spreading. Other species are watching. Some already fear us. Others obey us. But now they see a single human standing up to us and winning. She is becoming a symbol." Vael looked at the screen. "A symbol of what?" "Hope," Altari said softly. And that may be more dangerous than any weapon. Across the galaxy, on small outposts and hidden channels, rumors about Kara grew. She beat an elite unit. She's hacking Cyrothek systems. She's building something. Other species began to ask questions. If she can fight them, why not us? If humans can stand, can we stand too? Kara didn't know it yet, but her actions were becoming the start of something bigger. One night, inside her asteroid base, Kara picked up a weak signal on an old receiver. It wasn't Cyrothex. It was another species, the Nahari, a small trade group that had lost many ships to the Dominion. The message was short. We don't know who you are, but we heard what you did. Thank you. We hope you are real. Kara smiled slightly. She sent a reply. I'm real. Keep watching. Days later, Kara launched a bold plan. She intercepted a Cyrothek supply ship headed to a forward base. She didn't destroy it. She boarded it. Quietly, carefully. Using her knowledge of Cyrothek's code and controls, she disabled the ship's weapons and locked the crew in a storage room without harming them. Then she sent the ship back, with a message painted on the inside hull. You don't need to fear the Dominion. Just fight smart. When the ship arrived back at its base, the Cyrotheks were shocked. No one had ever dared do something like this, and no one expected a human to send it back without causing harm. Commander Vial was furious. She mocks us! But Dr. Altari saw something deeper. She is sending a message, she said. Not just to us, but to everyone watching. Vial paced the room. Then what do you suggest? She must be stopped, Altari said, but not with force. Force has failed. We need to outthink her. The commander frowned. How do you outthink a human? Altari looked at the screen, showing Kara's face. By remembering what she truly is, a survivor, and by finding what she wants most. That night, in her base, Kara stared at the stars through a small window. She missed Earth. She missed her team, but she knew she could not go home yet. Not while the Cyrotheks still hunted her. Not while others lived in fear. She picked up her journal and wrote one line. They came to catch a human. Now they chase a ghost. Outside, her small ship began to power up again. New parts were ready. New systems online. The war wasn't over. It had just begun. And the galaxy was watching. Kara Miles sat inside her small command room, deep within the hidden asteroid base. A soft blue light from the control panel glowed on her face. Outside, her modified ship, Echo 7, was ready again. Stronger, faster, and smarter than before. She had worked day and night, adding stealth systems, rebuilding damaged engines, and loading coded messages into old satellite beacons. Each change had one goal: to speak not just with weapons, but with a message. Kara knew that fear alone was not enough. She had beaten Cyrothex hunters, yes. She had escaped traps, hacked into systems, and made the Dominion look foolish. But now it was time to do more. It was time to show the galaxy what a human could really do. Far away, in the command center of the Velkthar, Commander Vielkor watched his officers argue. She's only one person, one said. She's becoming a threat to our image, another added. Our allies are asking questions, a third warned. Commander Vael slammed, his hand on the table. Enough! The room fell silent. I want every patrol, every scanner, every spy watching for her. The human must be found. Then came another voice, calm and clear. Dr. Altari stood at the side, arms folded. You are looking for her like she's hiding, but she's not hiding. She's preparing. Val frowned. Preparing for what? Altari looked up. To speak, not just to us, to all of them. Kara's plan was bold, dangerous, impossible by normal rules, but she was human, and humans made impossible things happen. She had found an old Cyrothex battlecruiser floating near the remains of a past war. The ship had been disabled long ago, Its systems were off, its crew long gone, but the frame was still there. Kara landed quietly on the ship and entered through a forgotten maintenance hatch. Inside, wires hung from ceilings, walls were cracked, and many systems were broken. But Kara only needed one part to work: the signal tower. She spent 2 days climbing, fixing, and connecting her own systems to the ship's communication hub, and on the 3rd day she pressed a button. A light blinked. The signal began to move, outward, beyond the ship, beyond the system, across Dominion space, and beyond. Her face appeared on screens from starports to cargo ships to hidden colonies. "To the peoples of this galaxy," she said, her voice calm but firm. "My name is Kara Miles. I'm from Earth. I came here by accident. But what I saw, I could not ignore. The Sirathex think they can rule by fear. They think one voice. Doesn't matter. I'm here to prove them wrong. I'm not here to destroy. I'm here to remind you. Freedom is not a gift. It's something you take back. If you want peace, speak up. If you want freedom, stand up. I'm just one human, but I'm not alone." Then the message ended, but its echo did not. The response was immediate. In a mining colony near the edge of Dominion space, a group of workers refused to load Sirathex cargo. On a merchant ship controlled by the Dominion, the crew played Kara's message over their speakers, cheering, quietly in secret. Even on Sirathex-controlled worlds, some officers looked at each other with doubt in their eyes. Commander Viel saw it all. He stormed into the war room. "She has poisoned our control." "She didn't fire a shot," Altari said softly. "And still, they heard her." Viel shouted, "Then we will silence her, now." He pointed to the map. "Track the signal. Find the source. Send 3 cruisers. End this." Altari did not argue. She only watched. Kara saw the ships coming. She had prepared for it. As the Sirathex cruisers moved toward the old battle cruiser, they didn't know that Kara had placed a surprise inside the ship, a power feedback loop in the signal core. The moment. The enemy ships locked weapons. Kara sent a new signal that triggered the loop. Bright lights flashed across the battlecruiser's surface. But instead of exploding, it sent out a pulse, a shockwave of light and static that jammed the weapons of all 3 enemy ships. No one was hurt. But the message was clear. Kara had disabled 3 warships without firing a single shot. She sent one last message. "You came to destroy. I came to remind you. There is another way." News of the event spread fast. Across the galaxy, Kara's name became legend. The Nahari started flying ships with Earth symbols painted on the sides. The Valari, once allies of the Dominion, called for peace talks. Even some Sirathex citizens began sending secret messages of support. Inside the halls of Sirathex High Command, a question rose louder than ever before. What if we've been wrong about humans? Commander Viel stood before the council. His voice was hard and tired. "She is one person. One." An older general replied, "She is more than that now." Another said, "We underestimated humans. That was our mistake." And then came a decision, one that shocked many. The Sirathex Dominion would request a ceasefire, not surrender, not defeat, but respect. Kara received the message days later. "We offer a meeting, a neutral ground, terms of peace." She sat for a while before answering. Her reply was simple: "I'll come, but only if Earth is recognized as an equal voice." And so, on a quiet moon near a blue star, history was made. Kara Miles, wearing her repaired Earth uniform, stepped into a glass hall. Across the table sat Sirathex leaders, not armed, not angry, curious, respectful. She took her seat, looked at them calmly, and said, "Let's talk." The room was quiet. Inside the clear glass hall on a peaceful moon, Kara Miles sat across from the leaders of the Sirathex Dominion. Around them, guards stood still. Distant stars blinked through the ceiling above. For the first time in Scifi's history, they were not giving orders. They were listening. A single human had changed that. Kara looked at the leaders calmly. Her uniform was clean, her voice steady. "Before we talk," she said, "there must be respect, equal respect." Commander Vale Kor, once her greatest enemy, now sat quietly across the table. He nodded. "You have earned that." She looked at the others. "I want Earth to be recognized as a free and equal world. No threats, no spies, no control." A second leader, older and wiser, spoke softly. "You are asking for peace?" Kara shook her head. "I'm asking for understanding. War brings fear. Fear brings silence. I want to bring something different." One Sci-Fi officer leaned forward. "Why do this alone? You could have waited. For your people. For more humans," Kara answered without hesitation. "Because sometimes one voice is enough to start a change." The meeting lasted for hours. They discussed peace zones, trade paths, and communication rights. Some Scifi's leaders were unsure. Others were impressed. A few were even hopeful. Kara never raised her voice. She didn't threaten anyone. She used truth, reason, and the power of what she had already done. And when the meeting ended, a new agreement had been made, not just between Earth and the Scifi's, but between fear and hope. Across the galaxy, news spread fast. Peace talks begin after humans' bold stand. One human opens the door to change. The ghost of the Dominion now speaks for the future. On Earth, Kara's signal finally reached home. Families who thought she was lost forever saw her face on screens. Children pointed and whispered, "She's from our planet." The Earth Defense Council called her message a moment that made history. Other alien species began asking to meet Earth leaders, not to fight, to learn, to talk. For the first time, Earth was being seen, not as small or weak, but as strong, smart, and brave. Back on her small ship, Echo 7, Kara stood on the deck staring at the stars. She had done what many believed was impossible. She had changed the mind of an empire. Not with power, but with courage and patience. Dr. Altari, the Scifi's xenopsychologist, visited her before she left the moon. "You surprised all of us," she said. Kara smiled slightly. "You thought humans were simple." Altari nodded. "We thought you were emotional and wild, but you are also clever and calm. You learn fast. Too fast." Kara raised an eyebrow. "Is that a warning?" "No," Altari said. "It's a lesson. One we needed to learn." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Altari said something else. "Do you think more humans will come?" Kara looked at the stars again. "Yes, someday. And I hope they come in peace. But if not..." She paused, then added, "Just remember, one was enough." The Scifi's dominion began changing after that. Slowly at first, they opened talks with species they once ruled harshly. They eased their patrols. They listened more. Not all of them liked this new path, but they could not forget what Kara had shown them. She had fought their best, outsmarted their technology, stood alone, and won. In the official Dominion archives, her file was updated. Kara Miles species, human status, alive classification, unpredictable note. One human resisted capture, disabled military units, and became a symbol of resistance. Future contact with humans should be handled with care. They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are not to be underestimated. As Kara's ship traveled slowly back toward human space, messages followed her from the Nahari. "You gave us hope." From the Valari. "When you arrive, we will welcome you." From small planets she never visited. "You showed us what one person can do." She saved each message in her ship's log, not because she wanted fame, but because she wanted to remember that every word had power, every action had meaning. Months later, Kara landed on an Earth outpost near the edge of human space. It was quiet and clean. Soldiers stood at attention as her ship touched down. A young officer ran forward. "Lieutenant Kara Miles?" She stepped out slowly, the dry wind brushing her face. "Yes." "We thought you were gone," the officer said, almost in shock. "What happened?" Kara looked toward the sky. "I met the galaxy," she said, "and I made sure it met us." Later that evening, she sat in a room filled with Earth officers. They listened carefully as she shared her story about the fights, the moon station, the hijacked signal, the peace talks. One officer leaned forward. "What should we do now?" Kara smiled. "Get ready," she said. "The galaxy knows we're here. Now we show them what being human really means." Final message from Kara's journal. "I did not win a war. I started a conversation. I did not lead an army. I walked alone. But I was not truly alone. I carried my people with me, in memory and in mission. If one voice can make them listen, then many voices can change everything. Let's make sure they remember us, not just for how we fight, but for how we stand."